Hello and welcome to the Rambling Movie Club, where each episode we try and watch something new and then go through it and see what works and what doesn't. This episode is all about Thor Ragnarok, the third Thor film in the third Thor trilogy? Yeah, even though there's another Thor movie coming out, so I guess it'd be quadrilogy. Just some quick spoilers. Obviously, going to be spoiling Thor Ragnarok if you haven't seen it, but there will also be some spoilers for Endgame and Infinity War if you're trying to avoid all spoilers and you haven't seen that, even though Infinity War came out like 2 years ago now. I really like this movie. This is like the perfect Marvel movie for me. I think it's like the perfect tone of what a Marvel movie should be, and like really good humor. And even though it's like linked to like this big franchise, and has lots of elements that play up for sequels and stuff, it does them really well. And as such, it was really hard to not just write every single moment and line down when I was making my notes for this. So right at the start, we meet Thor in a cage, and he confronts Surtur, and you've got Thor talking to a skeleton and sassing Surtur. The spinning bit on the chain where he's hanging is great, and it's kind of introducing us to this like new funny Thor, where in like the other two Thor movies and the Avenger movies, he's been quite plain and serious. And then as the fight scene kicks in, we've also got the great soundtrack coming in as well. We get Thor being chased by the big dragon thing, and he ends up on Asgard, which again is just great. Such a funny moment when the dragon's head rolls over and the girls run off screaming. It might not actually be a dragon, I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's funny. And then Thor goes up and we see Loki, and you've got Matt Damon cameoing as fake Loki, which I think is a really great like cameo, because like you don't expect it to be him and it's not super obvious. And also Chris Hemsworth's brother playing Thor, yeah, which is great, because he almost got the part of Thor over Chris Hemsworth, but it came really close between those two. So as we find out, Loki is actually pretending to be Odin. Thor's not happy, and then Loki and Thor go looking for the real Odin. And this was just the dialogue is great in this movie, because like they go to Earth and Loki says, "I swear I left him right here," and Thor says, "On the sidewalk or right there where the building's being demolished?" And the line is, "I'm not a witch," and Thor says, "Then why do you dress like one?" So yeah, it's just great dialogue between the two of them, and I'd love to know if it's improv or just really well written by Taika Waititi, because yeah, his fingerprint is like all over this movie. And then Thor goes to see Doctor Strange, and again more great dialogue where you've got, "Well, what do you drink?" And Thor's like, "Well, not tea." And Thor says, "You could have sent an electronic letter, it's called an email." Doctor Strange says, "Do you have a computer?" And Thor says, "No, what for?" And it's just, yeah, again, it's great back and forth dialogue. And then building into the scene as well, you've got the bit where, with the jump cuts, where Doctor Strange is like teleporting them around his building. I don't know what it's called, Sanctum something something. And Doctor Strange is teleporting Thor around, and Thor's being thrown into the bookcases, spilling his drinks. And this is some great like jump cuts, and it does it really, really well. And then eventually, you know, Thor and Loki do find Odin, and Odin dies, which I definitely didn't see coming. But Odin's death is very emotional without being super sad. It's more of a like his story goes on. Like they do quite well of like it's, and kind of as we go on through this movie, you see Thor dealing with his death a bit, but it's a way of having like a deep moment without it being like super emotional, because they want this movie to be quite upbeat and light. So then Thor's sister Hela shows up, and there's a great transition from human clothes to Asgard clothes. And I've seen this done on like YouTube tutorials and stuff for people who've like done this at home, where they've done like similar transitions, and it's just a really cool effect. Straight from the start, Cate Blanchett is great as Hela, and they also have really good explanations to why she's been away for so long. It's that Odin locked her away because she grew too violent and powerful. And then also they do a great introduction of her powers, just to show that she is super powerful, is that she instantly smashes Thor's hammer. So rather than just Odin saying, yeah, she's super powerful, like, it's just like, nope, she smashed the hammer that's supposed to be unbreakable. And then they fight, Thor ends up on Sakaar, where he's about to be eaten by scavengers, and then Valkyrie shows up and saves him, even though she's going to kill him too. I love the effects of when she's controlling the guns, with her arms, and there's like all these like light rings around her arms. I think it's a really cool like subtle CGI effect. And then at the same time, we've got Hela on Asgard, introducing herself to all of the people. I love Hela being sassy after no one listened to her speech about who she is. But like at the same time, none of the guards worried that they're about to fight the goddess of death. Like her name is literally the goddess of death, and they're all like, yeah, we can take her. Do they have people claiming to be gods all the time? They're just like, yeah, whatever, we'll let it go. And then back on Sakaar, we're introduced to the Grandmaster. This is a great mechanism to introduce the Grandmaster in the world, and you also got Thor on this roller coaster ride, and yeah, it's such a clever thing. Rather than the Grandmaster being like, hello, yes, I'm the Grandmaster, I did this thing, like he takes you on this mad journey, play to Willy Wonka music. And the great line of, the Grandmaster has a collection of all lost and insignificant things, like you. And then again, there's a great jump cut of Thor being terrified by the ride and starts screaming, and then jump cuts to him in a room full of people still screaming, and it's just there. It's a great jump cut. And then we've got the Grandmaster being very on the nose with something that we kind of thought of from the start of Thor saying he's the god of thunder, and the Grandmaster being like, I don't hear any thunder. And then the Grandmaster melts the guy right in front of Thor, and Thor freaks out and has a very, very accurate reaction, as we all would, at seeing something melted in front of us. And then we have the reversal of the adopted brother joke as well in this scene, with Loki pointing out that he's adopted, and that him and Thor actually aren't related. And then we're kind of introduced to Korg, who's played by Taika Waititi. He does a really good job in this, even though it's a fully CG character. Korg is very much like although he's funny, like he's not like super laugh out loud funny, he's like a bit more tempered and like a little bit slower pace kind of thing, which is kind of what you need when the rest of the movie is like such loud and bright. We jump back to Asgard to see Hela and Scourge, and then you find out that Odin conquered the other 9 realms, or 8 realms I guess, if Asgard counts as one of them. Odin conquered all these realms and hid it, and this is so true because most countries have this, like look at like the British Empire, like how they conquered all these countries, stole all these things, then kind of be like, oh no, we just wanted to look after them. It's like, nope, you were evil and wanted to take over the countries. So it's a good way of kind of showing that in like even though it's in like a very silly movie, like it's a good way of showing it. To have how Hela points out that the Infinity Gauntlet in the vault is a fake. This is perfect for all the fanboys out there who are like, oh yes, Infinity Stone number 7 is actually on this planet, not like they showed in movie number 4. So yeah, it's really good to kind of shut those people up. And then Loki goes to visit Thor while he's in prison, just before he's about to go fight. And you kind of feel what Thor's really feeling as he sums up all the things that have happened to him in like the last 2 days. Literally, like the Thor we knew from the other movies is gone, like within the space of like a day or two, like in the movie. I quite like this because it's such a contrast to like the deaths in Endgame, with things like Black Widow in Endgame and Gamora in Infinity War, where like you don't feel the deaths. It's just like, okay, let's keep moving, we're gonna save everyone later, whatever, like we'll deal with it later. And then you get in like, oh, they actually weren't saved. Whereas with this, like you feel like you see what Thor's feeling and how like he is like mourning his father being gone and stuff like that. And then of course Korg jumps in with his piss off ghost line, which is just brilliant. And then Thor gets ready to fight, and we see him trying to be super supportive of Valkyrie, and he's just tying himself up in knot, and it's just not very good, going very well. And then this is finished off by a haircut by Stan Lee, which again kind of completes the transition from the Thor that we knew previously to the new Thor with this like new haircut. And like I say, like he almost looks completely different. Like he doesn't have his hammer, he doesn't have his hair, he doesn't have his cape, doesn't have his father. Like everything's changed. And now we have Thor fights the Hulk in the arena. Got the line that's quite famously he's a friend from work, which as most people know, but in case you don't, I will point out anyway. This line was improv by a kid who was visiting the set from one of the Make-A-Wish foundations, and he suggested it and they loved it and it really worked. You're seeing more and more of the colours of Sakaar, and I really like how colourful everything is here, and everything's so bright and vivid, and we kind of see more of this later on in the movie as well. Also, this is the first time we see Thor wear a helmet. Was he worried about messing up his hair before? You also see the difference of Thor and Loki's reactions to seeing Hulk. It's a great payoff to the champion being the best. I mean, it's kind of shown in the trailers that it was Hulk, so it's not too much of like a twist, but at the same time, it's nice they built him up so much to then be someone that we actually knew is a very good fighter. The Thor versus Hulk fight is great because it's something they've kind of been building to from Avengers 1, and it's nice to finally have that payoff, and you kind of see that they're very equal, and that like neither of them is really the strongest. And of course we got the sun's getting real low moment, which has been parried by Deadpool since then as well, and it's just Thor doesn't understand it and just keeps saying sun's getting real low over and over again. And then we have Thor waking up and you see he's absolutely shredded. Taika Waititi was like, okay, we've got to put that in there because everyone knows that he's super muscly, so yeah, we'll just give him some eye candy. And we start to kind of see a more dynamic complex to the Hulk Banner dynamic, about how like he's been Hulk for like a few years and Hulk's starting to develop as well and mature, whereas before we could only manage like the occasional word, and now like he's doing like complete sentences and he's like in complete control. It's something they tried to build on in Infinity War and Endgame, but it kind of doesn't really work because technically like Ragnarok, Endgame and Infinity War were supposed to be like a trilogy for Banner because he can't have his own movie. The character building that they do in Ragnarok is probably the best out of the three of them. Same for Thor and most of the other characters, to be honest. But it also just shows you how the Professor Hulk in Endgame doesn't work at all. And of course, the most important character building is the fact that Thor sees Hulk's penis, because we all needed that to happen. And then we also see, although Hulk is getting more mature, he's also a little bit clever, and tricks Thor into running into the laser door defense thing, which is just hilarious. We kind of see a bit more of Thor being mad at losing his hammer and his dad, which again is great because like again you really feel like kind of what he's going through rather than it just being a throwaway, like I said before, like some of the deaths in the Marvel movies. Also, like, so then he tries to convince Valkyrie to help him, and he's like, you know what, like, I've had enough, that's what heroes do. Like, he tries to escape, throws the ball to his face instead, and then tries again and smash the window. And then him and Hulk go and steal the ship. The Hulk breaks the ship before he can fly it, though. And it's a really good plot point to kind of stop him flying off, because it makes perfect sense. And then we also see, as Natasha pops up, that Hulk is like struggling to say Hulk. He's trying to turn Banner, and the whole thing of him punch himself to try and feel angry and stop himself from feeling emotions and turning back is like quite a powerful thing. Like, you can see like the Hulk does want to go, he wants to stay in control. And again, it just really builds on the whole Banner Hulk dynamic that we've kind of seen in the previous like Avengers movies. And then Loki and Valkyrie are kind of fighting, and it's a really good way of showing like what happened, rather than like having her sit there or watching a video or something. Instead, we see Loki's like taps into her mind and sees her painful memory, and it's really like visually very well done as well. Some more great dialogue between like Banner and Thor, and as well as like Thor and Valkyrie. Thor's got like a shawl around his face, and Valkyrie's like, "What are you wearing?" And Thor's like, "It's my disguise." She's like, "I can see your face." And he's like, "No, I'm gonna do this," and covers his face. Also, like, the whole like Valkyrie vaguely recognizing Banner is great, because like, although they're not the same, and like she doesn't expect them to look anything similar, it's good that like, because she spent so much time around them, that she does recognize him a bit. And the very good throwaway joke, because this is when they find out that Valkyrie has tied up Loki and that she's willing to help them. So Thor's like, "Okay, we're going through the big portal." She's like, "The devil's anus?" And they're like, "What? We're going through what?" So it's just, yeah, very good joke there. As well as the snake story of when Thor picked up a snake when he was a child and turned out to be Loki, who then stabbed him. And then they steal a ship, and Loki says he knows how. And Thor's like, "I've got a plan." But also, like, at the same time, we've got some really good character development between Thor and Loki about how like they're kind of parting ways as brothers, and like, again, they're not the same people they were at the start of all these movies, and it's great to see this character growth. So to start off with, you have Thor's whole plan is literally just to throw Loki at people, which is great, and then how you think Loki tricked him again in exactly the same way over and over again, and you see, no, Thor's grown past this and actually caught on and isn't letting Loki do his tricks anymore. And then they escape on the ship. Valkyrie taking out all the ships is so cool. And then they're like, "Oh, just start pressing buttons to fire weapons." And Valkyrie's like, "Oh no, there aren't any weapons. The Grandmaster uses this for good times and orgies and stuff." And they're like, "Don't touch anything." So then Thor goes and helps her fight off the ships. Banner's like, "I don't know how to fly this," and Thor's just like, "Just use one of your PhDs." And it's like, that's such a great line, especially as a PhD student. I really appreciate that, because I did not learn to fly an alien spaceship as part of my PhD, sadly.
So apparently in my notes, I just completely stopped here. So basically what happens is they go through the Devil's Anus, and then they arrive at Asgard, and they make a few jokes, and then Thor and Hela meet and they fight. At the same time, Valkyrie and Hulk are trying to get all the Asgardians to safety and protect them from all of Hela's soldiers.
That'll come later. There's a kind of a line here I didn't really like in Endgame, that he kind of walks away and like gives the throne to Valkyrie. I kind of felt like that went against the whole character development of him like finally accepting his place as king. But there's a line here where he says like, "I'd love for someone else to rule, but it just can't be you because you're the worst," which he says to Hela when they're fighting her back on Asgard. And yeah, maybe it does make sense for him to then like kind of pass on the throne to someone else. Now he's found someone more fitting. And then him and Hela are fighting, and Hela cutting out Thor's eye is, again, this ties into what I was just saying, is him kind of finally fulfilling his place and becoming Odin by only having one eye. Yeah, it's getting why I kind of felt it was a backward step for him to give up the throne and give it to Valkyrie instead. But well, I guess we'll see where this goes, and in Thor Love and Thunder, maybe this character will develop further. And then Banner's like, "I'm gonna go help, I can take down that dog," and he just splats on the floor before he turns into Hulk instead. And he does fight the giant dog. Although I have a question about the giant dog. Why is it the humans, when they come back, all stay as skeletons, but the dog has fur? Like, it doesn't make any sense. There's no consistency there. But anyway, Loki shows up with Korg and all the others, and they're going to help rescue people. Loki is very dramatic, and it's just like, "Your savior is here," because of course he has to make a big entrance. And then you kind of have this like flashback where Thor is fighting Hela, and he flashes back to like a moment with Odin, and Odin's like trying to explain to him, Thor's like, "I can't beat her, I don't have my hammer." And like the great line of like Odin where he's like, "You never need your hammer, like, are you Thor God of Thunder or Thor God of Hammers? Like, which do you need? Like, it was just a conduit for you to like channel your powers." And it's such a powerful moment to be like, look, like it was all inside you the whole time. And then of course that's then followed up with the next moment, which is like Thor being like, "I'm not as strong as you," and Odin's like, "No, you're stronger." Like, he has so much faith in this son, and it's just such a great moment. And then we kick into Thor busting out his powers as the song from the start kicks in as well. And this is just a great like action scene, and like although it's not like it's a lot of CGI and stuff, it's sort of just like pure fun kind of thing of Thor just like zapping all these people. And we even see, as they're kind of fighting in front of, even Scourge has an arc and a redemption. So like even not the main characters can have some sort of arc in this movie, which just goes to show you how great of a director Taika Waititi is. And the whole, like, this has been memed a million times of Hela being like, you can't possibly defeat me, and then he's like, I know, but he can, as Surtur appears and like starts to destroy Asgard. And it's just, yeah, it's a really good, like, rather than being like, oh no, we have to come up with this one like thing to defeat the super powerful villain, instead it's like, nope, we just get a different villain who's even stronger than us to defeat them. Like, it's a very clever way of doing it. It might feel like a bit of a cop-out to some people, but I think it's a really good idea. They also very cleverly, when they were making the trailers, because this came out not long before Infinity War, they didn't show Thor losing his eye in this, in any of the trailers. And then for Infinity War, they also didn't show in that hint that he'd lost an eye, because for like, the first half of the movie, he's got an eye patch on, but they CG'd it instead, so that it looked like he didn't have the patch. And then we kind of finish up with Thor like taking his place on the throne, and him like leading Asgard into the future of like where to go next. Although, as we know, if you've seen Infinity War, that very quickly goes wrong. So as I said at the start, I quite like this movie. I think it's really good. I love Taika Waititi. I love his writing style, his humor, and how like he's not afraid to shy away from like some of the like deeper things, like the problems with conquest, and also like dealing with like loss and stuff like that. And he's of course going to keep the whole thing light and funny. I think this movie was a great setup for Infinity War. Curious watching Thor again now, how many plot points were things that they wanted ready for Infinity War, and how many were things they were just like, this would be fun to do. Because like if there was a lot of plot points, like things like Odin had to die, Thor had to lose his hammer, need to lose his eye, Asgard had to be destroyed, like Taika Waititi kind of maneuvered that minefield like quite well. And got to the point where they needed for Infinity War quite well. I'm really glad as well they didn't make Valkyrie a love interest. I was really worried that they were going to make her like the new romance, because Natalie Portman's Jane isn't in this, but I'm glad they're kind of just like good friends. Even Infinity War and Endgame, they don't kind of develop that into a romance or anything, which I was really happy about. So yeah, that was Thor Ragnarok. What did you think of it? As I said, this is one of my favourite Marvel movies, and I think it's like the most true Marvel movie there is. It's like captures the full spirit of Marvel with all the colours, the humour, and the story as well, and the characters.
Next week's movie is, ironically, going to be continuing the Taika Waititi trend. It's going to be all about Jojo Rabbit, which is the recent movie that came out, well, recent in the UK. In America, I think it came out in like autumn 2019. In the UK, it came out here on like the 1st of January. It's actually the first movie I saw in 2020. So this is kind of a difficult movie to explain. If you haven't been paying attention during this podcast, this will probably wake you up. Basically, Jojo Rabbit is the story of a young boy growing up in Nazi Germany towards the end of World War II. And you kind of see firsthand what children went through in Germany. And it's quite a silly movie, but it starts off silly and then gets more serious towards the end. And also, most notably, and what's kind of been toasted about in the press, is Jojo, who is the main character, his best friend, or his imaginary best friend, is Hitler, who is played by Taika Waititi, and is very extreme and crazy. So it's definitely worth watching. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.